Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fieros with Tri-City Equity Group. Today, excited, we've got Dr. Elaine Stageberg on the show. I had to make sure that I got her name right because she's got a mouthful of a last name, and she's a great person that we're going to want to interview on the show today. So very excited about that, actually. So Dr. Elaine, she's a husband and wife team with her husband with Black Swan Real Estate. So, you know, they're parents to 4 kids. So definitely on the family side, we got her family's out sledding today out in the snow. So we're gonna make sure we get all the juice out of the interview for her and get her going about the day. But her and her husband own Black Swan Real Estate. They're a real estate investment property management company. Their portfolio is over now 600 doors with more than 330 million in assets under management. So they've been able to create for themselves financial freedom in their 30s and now help others to do the same. So incredibly excited to have Dr. Elaine on the show today. Welcome to the show, Elaine.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, you know, for those of our audience that might not be familiar with, you know, who you are, kind of your story, give us a little background. How did you guys get started in real estate? Did you inherit, you know, all of your doors and all of the skill set? Did you get, you know, did you start from, tell us a little bit about your story and how you guys got going.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a somewhat common story for how we first got started. So I owned my home before my husband and I got married. He also owned his own home. And when we got married, we decided to move in to his home. And this was in 2011. So in that, post 2008 crash, real estate values, had taken a bit of a dive. And he really wanted to rent out my home. And I'll be transparent, I was completely opposed to it. From my viewpoint, we had just gotten married. I was about to go to medical school. I was hoping that maybe some children would come along. And I really perceived, keeping that home and doing real estate investing to be a risky decision. And he said, well, let's try it for a year. And I agreed to do that. And turns out I really liked it. I was able to see that we were getting some cash flow from that property. So as I had left my career to go to medical school, we were getting, at least a little bit of additional cash flow from that property. I was seeing the mortgage being paid down by the rent payments. And then the value of the property was increasing as, in the years after the post 2008 crash. And so that's when we got, bit by the real estate bug. My husband was already bit by the real estate bug, but that's really when I, had some buy-in there. And then we decided to purposefully invest. So that home, I consider us kind of like accidental landlords. We decided to purposefully invest. We saved up basically all of the money we could, tried to live as frugally as we could. We didn't have children at that time, but like I said, I was in medical school, so we only had one income. And we bought a VA foreclosure. We were living in Oklahoma City at the time. We paid $35,000 for that property. That number just really entertains me today. We did about $15,000 in renovations. Most of it was sweat equity. We laid all new flooring, did all new paint, light fixtures. Some of it we did have to bring in professionals for new HVAC, new roof, new windows. And then when we were done with that home appraised for $100,000. So we were able to do a cash out refi, get $80,000 back. So we paid back all of the capital that we had put into the project, and quite a bit of capital was left over. And I just remember when we got that paper check at the closing table, I thought to myself, how can I do this as many times as possible? I want to sit at a closing table and get these checks as many times as possible in my life. And that's when we really started doing real estate investing in earnest. Started with single family homes. We would just buy as many of them as we could. We always invested the profits back into buying more properties. We have a BRRRR business model, so we were able to recycle our capital as quickly as possible. Oftentimes we would renovate, so much, or we would get such a great deal on the buy side that we would be able to cash out more than we had started with. So we were kind of creating a capital snowball. And then, kind of fast forward to today, people started seeing the success that we were having, asked if they could invest alongside us. We did many joint ventures. We launched our first private equity fund in 2021. We now do all of our deals through our private equity fund now in 2022. And somehow we got to $330 million in assets under management. And it's been a fun ride for sure.
That's awesome. And you guys have done so much in a relatively short period of time, because you're from the time that you started, let's say that first closing table, right? When you guys got that first, that first check, right? To, let's say today, how many years has that been?
That's been about 10 years.
Okay. So just want to highlight something for you guys, right? So in a 10-year span, they went from, hey, you know what? We're homeowners, just like, a lot of people are. Closing, created some value add, right? Renovating, just some simple things, right? And this is the thing, right? Real estate is not rocket science. So took some basic concepts, applied them, and have scaled now, where I'm sure you could attest to, like, that's life changing, like the amount of, capital that you guys have raised, the opportunity that you create, not only for yourself, but for others. And exactly. I'm sure, like, the wealth that you guys have been able to generate, and you've been able to do it with your spouse as well. So that's amazing. And you don't have kids now still, right?
Well, we have 4 children now.
so they've got 4 kids, you guys, 4 kids. That's amazing. That's awesome.
We joke that we like to do everything at scale. As we were building our single family home portfolio, we would hear from people, well, you can't scale single family. And we would say, we're living it. We're doing it. You have to put systems and processes in place, but it's certainly possible. So a course that we have that we offer is Single Family at Scale, to teach people how to do real estate investing. It's kind of a passion project of ours because it has been so life-changing for us and has, generated financial freedom for us. But more importantly, has changed, how we think about ourselves. We know that we can tackle big projects. We know that we can accomplish big goals. We know that we can have, stellar communication with each other to set and achieve goals, to get through any obstacles. So that course that we offer, 100% of all of the revenue goes to charity. It's a give what you can model, really to serve the earlier version of ourselves when we were first learning how to do this, to learn from people that had walked that road. And so on the family side, we thought, well, we'll just, do that at scale too. So we have 4 children, hope for several more. And just, I think once you get used to a certain level of chaos, anything less, like, I think I wouldn't know what to do with myself. So we like to stay busy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome because, you just smashed like a few different barriers there for a lot of people. We've got kids, I can't do that. That's for other people, right? Well, you guys are investors. Well, but that's for somebody else. Well, surely we can't do that. Well, I can get medical school. I got to commit time and money and energy to that. We can't take on anything else. Right. And so you're just like every layer, right? Like every new step is smashing through a limiting belief, right? A barrier that a lot of people have. I mean, I still struggle with some of that too. I've definitely encountered that over the years. So I know that there's a lot of people that will resonate with, kind of you guys' story. I mean, that's amazing. And that's so awesome. And then you mentioned too, like, I know you guys are vertically integrated. You can talk a little bit about, how that factors into your business and you guys' operations.
Yeah, I consider our vertical integration to be, one of our most important ingredients for success. And it goes all the way back to that very first home. The home that I lived in was our first rental. So we chose to self-manage that property. At that time, it was really a financial decision. So it was just to be able to do that work ourselves instead of having to pay a management company. And we thought, as we scaled, we would hire a third-party property management company at some point years in the future. And then just found out that we really liked managing our own assets. We liked the control and the ownership mentality that comes because we are the owner. In the very beginning, my husband would do all of our maintenance tickets. I would do all of our bookkeeping. I mean, anything that needed to happen on those properties, we were doing them. When we got to a place where we could no longer do it ourselves, then we had to really sit down and make a decision. Do we hire third-party property management, or do we create our own property management company? And that's a huge undertaking. Yeah. And that's what we decided to do. We decided to do the hard thing. And so it started very organically. We just hired a part-time assistant, and then it kind of snowballed from there. My husband got his real estate license. that's a little bit of a tangent, but I'm so grateful that we did that. We were so limited in what we believed that would do for us. We really thought it would just allow us to get into properties faster. Again, I was in residency at that time, so our schedules were very complicated, and we thought, well, if we only have to coordinate his schedule and my schedule instead of his schedule, my schedule, and an agent's schedule, wouldn't that be so much easier? Well, it turns out that was like the least important thing about getting the real estate license. It opened up so many more doors for us, allowed us to create a fully fledged property management company. And so today we're vertically integrated. We have a real estate sales team. We do all of our own acquisitions. We have a construction team. We do all of our own renovations. That's a huge part of our business. We have 67 active renovation sites going to like today, this week. We do all of our own property management. We raise all of our own capital. We do all of our own asset management, and love the quality and the consistency and the control that comes from that vertical integration. It certainly makes things harder, but we find that with scale, vertical integration actually makes things easier. And so things that we're targeting in the future, this year we created our own maintenance company. So we were already doing renovations. And then, the ongoing maintenance, we were using third-party vendors. We built a maintenance team in-house. Next year, we're starting a custodial company to do all of our, common area cleaning, our turnover cleaning in-house. We spend about $500,000 a year on appliances. So we're going to create an appliance company so that we can control that supply chain. Just anything that we do repeatedly in the business, we're asking ourselves, how can we vertically integrate that to drive the quality and the returns that we want to see?
No, that's amazing. And, one of the things that I'm thinking too, like, as you're sharing that, it's like, well, you that's available to you as well, because you guys have gone a mile deep, let's say, in that market, right?
Exactly.
You haven't been able to, or you haven't been, well, we're here and we're here and here. I know you guys operate in a couple of markets, but you're not doing that in 10 different markets. I mean, at least not now, right? Like it's like,
not yet.
Okay, well, that's amazing. You guys have crushed it. That's awesome. Well, how's it been working with your spouse throughout, all of this, right? Like, because that's another challenge, right? For a lot of people, it's like, okay, well, hey, I'm married. Me and my wife butt heads at times, and and we have business together. But how has that been? Because you guys have scaled massively, and you throughout all of this, right? You're working directly with your spouse, like integrally part of the business, both of you.
Yeah.
How's that been?
For us, it has been a great source of joy, a great source of meaning and purpose that we're building this thing together. And today, it's not only our own real estate portfolio that provides for our own financial freedom, for our own generational wealth for our children. It's stewarding the wealth of hundreds of our investors together. Tens of millions of dollars have been invested with us. And we love being able to take care of that capital together. And then our property management team. So we have about 27 full-time employees, and we love getting to lead them and serve them and grow them in their career opportunities and teach them how to do real estate investing. And it makes it so much more meaningful that we're able to do it together. It's certainly not without challenges. I think we've gotten better at it over the years, but particularly in the beginning, there was a lot of butting heads. We disagreed on things. I would say I am much more risk averse than my husband. I think that's typical in every relationship, whether it's a husband and wife that's working together, even just two business partners. Usually they don't agree on everything, and usually there's one person that's a little more risk averse than the other. It's important for both parties to have the same vision so that they're rowing in the same direction. So we've really worked hard on making sure that we are clear with each other about what we see for the future and how we're going to get there. And it's like the number one question that we get. So both my husband and I do a lot of investor calls, and people always want to know, what's our deal structure? What kind of assets are we buying? What's our business plan? All of those important things. But at the end of, I would say probably 30% of our calls is what we call like the doorknob question. And they're like, so are you guys really that happy together? Are you guys really that in love? Because we do a lot of like live Zoom calls with our audience and different things. And I think people see that we're playful together, that we genuinely enjoy being around each other. We finish each other's sentences, those sorts of things. And people want to know how to make that happen. So there's some things I've learned along the way. One I'll share here is real estate investing generally is about freedom, right? Most people go into real estate investing to generate financial freedom that then allows them to make decisions on, do they cut back at work? Maybe they quit work altogether, whatever that is. Do they travel more, take care of, aging parents, kids, like whatever that thing is. And I find that in relationships, there's often one person who wants freedom from and one person who wants freedom to, and they think that they want different things. So an example might be, one party might be thinking I would say it's generally masculine energy, not always the case, but in general, wants freedom from something. I'm sorry, freedom to. I got that backwards for a second because I'm more feminine energy, so I just instantly think freedom from, but freedom to quit my job, freedom to travel, freedom to go out and start something new. And typically feminine energy, again, not always the case, but typically wants freedom from. So thinking about things like safety, like freedom from having to, work long hours that keeps me away from my family, or freedom from having to worry about, retirement or security or health insurance or kind of whatever those things are. And they think that they want different things. And maybe there can be some butting of heads there, but actually they both want the same thing. They both want freedom. They're just not quite realizing, because they're using different words and different kind of, they're coming, and one's coming at it from the left and the other's coming at it from the right, and they don't realize that they're looking at the same box, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I find that when people get on the same page and they realize that they're truly working for the same goal, which is freedom to make life decisions the way they want to live life on their own terms with passive income, that's really when the magic happens. And that's really when all of a sudden, couples can really accelerate their wealth and really reach their goals much faster than they realize, because they have two people rowing in the same direction instead of just one.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And you're absolutely right, because a lot of times, and we'll hear this pretty frequently, I think, with like investors. It's like, okay, well, I got to get my, my spouse on board, right? Like, mm-hmm. Oh, okay, well, like those that don't have, like, let's say, a shared goal, or really not even that, but like a shared benefit, right? Because to your point, they do have shared goals. They just don't really they haven't fleshed that out yet, right? They haven't communicated that with each other yet. So usually it's one spouse. It's like, okay, well, look, we can get this going, like, look, we have such and such that's doing this. This can be successful for us, and then the other one is just focused on some other, component or some other aspect of their relationship, or, whether it be family life or whatever, and they don't see it as an immediate option. So mm-hmm. No, I think that's huge. And the fact that you guys got that early on, because it's another thing too, right? I've seen this plenty of times where it's like, hey, you know what? You went to school to be a doctor, spent a ton of time, resources, energy. Hey, maybe you've been working in your career for, 10 years. And then you realize, oh gosh, I want some more freedom because I'm burned out from this, because it's super stressful, which I absolutely get. Yep. And then you start, right? And then you've got buy-in, but now you're a decade, behind, right? Yeah. Versus it sounds like you guys got that like from the get-go, and then incorporated that also into your, what your life plan already. So that's huge. That's huge. Communication, right? So.
We were so fortunate to see mentors in our lives who did real estate investing even before my husband and I met each other. So before I went to medical school, I served as a nanny for a family that owned a medical practice. I helped with one of their children who has autism. And so I was in their home day in and day out. And even though they had a medical practice, they were real estate investors. And so they would just talk to me about the deals that they were putting together. And as I got to know them better, they would share with me, most of our wealth is in real estate. We run the medical practice because we enjoy it. It gives us a sense of purpose. It's just something we've been doing. They had inherited that medical practice from the husband's father, but their wealth was in real estate. And so that seed was just planted in my head. And then completely separately from me, this was before we met, my husband was a career technologist. And so a little thing he would do on the side is help folks with like really basic IT stuff, like setting up their email, passwords, those sorts of things. And many of his clients were attorneys, which, to maybe kind of the average person, one might think, well, that's a high income profession. That's how that person is generating their wealth. But again, as he would get to know them, they would say, I practice law because I enjoy it, because I've been doing it for 30 years, because I have the office, I enjoy, doing this work, but really my wealth is in real estate. And so he had that seed planted. And so then when we met and got married, again, I was the more reluctant party. He was like, hey, you've seen this pattern. I've seen this pattern. Let's replicate the pattern. And I was that more, risk averse party that thought, well, maybe we'll do that later. Maybe we'll do it when we're older, when we have more money, those sorts of things, all of those limiting beliefs, like you reflected back there. And I'm so grateful that we had that sort of early pain in the post-2008 crash, that the value of that home was less than I had paid for it. So, I wouldn't say we had to rent it, but it certainly made the most financial sense to say, hey, let's rent this. Let's allow the value to increase back up as the economy recovers. And then I really thought we would sell it. And it turns out here we are, 12 years later, never having looked back, acquiring more and more and more. We've never sold a single asset that we've acquired. We're big believers in a buy and hold business plan. And I'm just so grateful that we had those early mentors of ours that just, I wouldn't even say they taught us real estate investing. They just planted the seed about what was possible and how they had generated wealth and freedom in their own lives. And so we started very early. And then my husband left his career as a technologist in 2019 to run our company full time. I left my career in medicine in 2020 to run our company full time. And so we're able to have this level of freedom available to us in our 30s that, exactly like you said, so many people wait until the pain is so severe. I have calls with investors every day where they're kind of at their wits' end. They're like, I don't know if I can do this for 2 more years, 3 more years, 5 more years, but I haven't started investing. I don't kind of see a way out. And if there's like one message from our time here today, it's start before the pain. Start building the financial freedom out before the burnout gets so bad that it's hard to think about continuing, because it takes some time to build substantial streams of passive income to generate that freedom that people are looking for.
Yeah, no, there's a few different things there too, just as you're talking. It's like, for one, your last point, right? It's time in the market, right? Like not timing the market, because you hear that a ton. It's Absolutely. Like, well, I'm just waiting for the crash. I'm just waiting for the crash. I'm like, well, yeah, but there's just start, right?
Yeah.
Don't try to time it. You'll be waiting on the sideline. There's cycles of course, but most people that are looking to start are not aware of that. So it's just like
the interesting thing, I'm sure you've experienced this too. The same people that were saying I'm waiting for the crash a year ago, now that things aren't so rosy, well, now is not a good time to invest.
Yeah.
Like, that's interesting. A year ago, so the human mind will always find a reason to not take a risk. The human mind will always find a reason to not grow. The human mind will always find a reason to kind of push the goalpost away. You just have to start. You just have to face the fear and start. And just that it's that same group of people that says I'm waiting for the crash, that now they're saying, well, now's not a good time, versus the people that say, what's the best deal I can put together right now with the economic conditions that I have, whether those economic conditions are amazing or they're struggling, what value can I find and create right now? The tactics change based on interest rates or inventory or prices or rental rates, but you just get in the market and stay in the market and just keep doing deals.
Yep. No, and we'll get to that here in just a sec, because I know I'm going to ask you a question about a current strategy for you guys in this not a good time to invest, according just as a sentiment for a lot of people. Just going back to a little bit about you guys' origin story. As you're talking about like, how your exposure, both you and your husband, to real estate investing, this is why it's so important that you're surrounded by people who are doing the things that you want to do, right? And maybe this wasn't so intentional for you guys, but you obviously picked up on it where, hey, I'm nannying for this family, and you're inquisitive enough to start conversations enough to say, well, what are you guys really doing? Well, we invest in real estate, right? So that's huge. And then the same thing for your husband to say the same thing, to ask these lawyers or whoever he's working for as well. Well, we do this, but we also have built wealth through real estate. And it's like, this is the people that you surround yourself with, right? If you're surrounding yourself with people who are not of that kind of mindset, guess what? You're not going to go there. You won't pick up, right? More is caught than is taught, right? And you even said it yourself, right? It's not like they were teaching you, hey, do this. No, you just caught from their lifestyle, the things that it afforded them. And that's why it's so keen to be aware of the people around you, your surroundings, all that kind of stuff, because you don't want the negativity. You don't want, especially, today, you don't want all of that being the things that you catch.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. You want to be around people that say yes to life, to opportunities. And that's a skill set that you likely want to have after you reach this fabled financial freedom. That's a yes lifestyle, right? That's yes, I have freedom. Let's take that trip. Yes, I have freedom. Let's do that thing with my spare time. Let's start that new hobby. So you're training your mind as you're developing your financial freedom to be a person that says yes, to be a person that looks for opportunities, that sets goals, really thinks about the why, right? So when we were learning from those mentors, we weren't really focusing on the how. We were focusing on the why, that look at the amazing lives that these people had created. We want something like that. And when you have a big enough why, you figure out the how. The how is often hard. That's okay. You're just so focused on that why, you're pulled to it like a magnet, and the struggles and the problems. And, I can think of so many tough renovations or deals that almost fell apart at the closing table. I mean, there's so many horror stories. But to me, they're more like comedies. I'm just, okay, we learned from that. Okay, of course that happened. Of course it's been hard. That's okay. We're just drawn magnetically to this big why. You just keep going through it.
Yeah. And it's always, you put everything out on a long enough timeline. This is something else I've learned, right? Just having the right attitude, the right vantage point. It's well, 10 years from now, I understand, on the table, I've got this deal that's going sideways and we're trying to, struggle to make it work. Okay. But that's in the moment. But, 10 years from now, am I really going to be stressed out about this? Is this going to be a net positive, or is it going to, take away, what can we learn from this? Right. You can always dissect, even losses, right? You can still learn from losses. So absolutely. Failing forward. Yeah. Huge lesson. Well, I want to touch on, because we, briefly mentioned, okay, well, hey, now's not a great time to buy, right? I'm hearing you did so much negativity in the general sentiment of a lot of investors and the economy. Oh, we're a recession, and this increased, interest rates, and it's not a good time to buy, and yada yada yada. How have you guys found a way to kind of navigate that? Change up maybe or implement new strategies so that you're still successful in today's kind of more challenging environment?
So we think now is a great time to buy. So we've acquired about 100 million in real estate this year, about 100 million awesome. The year before. Our strategy has always been the same, all the way back to that very first property. Buy real estate at a good price where there's a clear opportunity for value add, whether that's physical renovations, management improvements, almost always a combination of both. Do a cash out refi, take that capital, buy the next thing, do it over and over and over again. That has always stayed the same. We always, seek to minimize our payback period. How can we get our capital out of a project as quickly as possible so that we can get to an infinite rate of return and then spend that capital on the next project? As I mentioned, we've never sold a single asset because once we're at an infinite rate of return, for us, it would make no sense whatsoever to slay that golden goose, stop all of that future cash flow, future equity building, and then also, have to do depreciation recapture and other, tax consequences that come at time of sale. The tactics change. Right. They always change. In the last 10 years, I would say our tactics has changed probably every quarter or so. You're just looking at, what's pricing, what are rental rates, what kind of pricing are we getting in terms of renovations, the cost of materials, the cost of labor, what is interest rates. I think in the last, say, 6 or 9 months, as there's been so much pressure from the Fed, now people are like, well, are your tactics changing? Well, yeah, our tactics are changing, but they've been changing every quarter for the last 10 years. And no one was really talking about it then because it was all kind of sunshine and rainbows over the last 10 years. So you think about, what's your pricing strategy? What's the best way to do the value add? For us, we're big believers in fixed rate debt from local regional banks. In our entire portfolio, we don't have a single penny of variable rate debt. We really think that in real estate investing, success is about 50% the deal and 50% the debt. And I think people really focus probably 95% on the deal and only 5% on the debt. And really for us, it's 50-50. So we spend about half of our time working on acquisitions and half of our time building relationships with bankers, managing our debt. Like a tangible example of that is in early 2022, when it was obvious that inflation was running away and the Fed was going to raise rates, we refinanced everything we possibly could in our portfolio. Number one, to pull out as much equity as we could so that we would have as much liquidity going into this year as possible, but then also to extend the terms on that debt. So right now, today, the shortest term we have on any of our debt is 4 years. So we have a 4-year window to allow interest rates to go up, come back down, whatever's going to happen. And we only have to find a time somewhere in that 4-year window when rates are lower to do a future cash out refi. Many of our properties that we've had, toward that like 10-year mark, we've done several cash out refis to harvest equity over and over. So it's just about the tactics at any given time, putting together, the best, potential set of variables there. And then one thing to really stress is that with large value add, there's so much cushion to work with. If we acquire something, like we put together a deal in June, we acquired it for $23 million. We'll do about $5 million in renovation. So let's say we're all in at $28 million. Well, our targeted ARV for that community is like 40, maybe even 45 million, just kind of depending on where cap rates land. There's like a lot of room to work with there. Even if cap rates, really go up, maybe we're at 35 million in our ARV, which we would consider to be a failure. But if that's where the market goes, great. Well, we've still generated so much equity that we've got room to work with. We do our projections, considering in the future that there could be, higher interest rates. Like it's just all about running projections, looking for creating the best deal at that time, but being in the market so that you know how the market is working so that you can put together the best tactics. The worst thing to do is say, I'm going to sit this out. And then when you come back into the market, it's like if you didn't ride a bike for years and then all of a sudden you're riding a bike again, you're not going to be as good as the person that just kept riding the bike, right? Mm-hmm. And then one of the deals I want to share that's just been really fun to put this together is in December of 2021, we acquired a $23 million apartment community here in our target market. And we had been working with the sellers for about a year, just trying to put the deal together. It was a mom and pop, and we're kind of a mom and pop company as well. So it was a local to local transaction. And they wanted, a large price for it. And we were willing to pay that, but needed to come up with a creative way to do that. And so leveraging our relationship with them, leveraging our relationship with the bank, we were able to structure that deal with a $9 million seller carry. We assumed their mortgage. And so we were able to acquire a $23 million apartment building with only $2.3 million down. All just putting together, how can we create a win-win-win situation for everyone? How can we get the seller what they want? How can we as the buyers get what we want? How can the bank get what they need and want? And then how can we bring the least amount of liquidity down? And then that seller carry is no interest and no payments for 7 years. So we have so much protection there. It allows us to really increase our cash flow from that deal. Obviously, our total annualized rate of return is very high because we have such a small amount of capital in that project. And then we were able to keep that project, instead of being sold to a large institutional buyer, to go from a local family that owns it to another local family. So just so much opportunity and goodness was created from that deal. And then we've used that now as a model for success. So every deal that we've put together in 2022 has had some flavor like that, where we've been able to work with sellers to do seller carries, work with banks to assume fixed rate debt rather than starting over at higher interest rates. Often able to do no payments and no interest on those seller carries for a number of years. And again, just communicating to the sellers, this is how it's a win for you. This is how it's a win for us. Communicating to the bank how it actually increases the safety of the deal for the bank. And then obviously it's great for our investors because we're able to have much higher rates of return with the great financing that we're able to get and the creative structures that we're able to put together. Those weren't deals that we were putting together, say 5 years ago, because the market was different then. So it just kind of reinforces that belief that look at what's out there in the market, use the pain in the market. There's always some sort of pain in the market. 18 months ago, it was that prices were crazy and, every building got 100 offers and you had to, offer them the price they wanted on the terms they wanted and your firstborn. And that's not the case right now. There's more room to negotiate and to work with sellers and brokers. So take the pain, find the opportunity. A thing that, I always remind myself, I tell my investors, I tell my team members, is the person that solves the problem is the person who benefits, and the person who creates the value is the person who solves the problem. So figure out what the problem is and then find a way to solve it. It's really truly that simple. It's not easy, but it is simple.
That's what I was going to say. It was like, well, we get compensated for solving problems. The people that can solve the most problems are the ones that generate the most, value, right? And you're compensated for that. So yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And this is definitely speaking to the people that are just like, wow, the interest rates are too high. I can't do anything. It's like, no, well, you just heard it from Elaine.
Yeah.
And say, okay, not only is she not, just buying, oh, okay, well, I can't buy a house because it's, high interest rate. It's like, no, she's buying, hundreds and hundreds of units, millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars worth of real estate and creating opportunities, solving problems all along the way, still, fueling that local economy because you guys operating, in your same markets. Well, hey, you know what? You can't tell me that the bankers and the brokers and everybody else has not also slowed down, right? That's industry wide, that's nationwide. Exactly. So now you're helping, keep food on their table as well, bringing these creative solutions, to the table. So kudos to you guys and, you and your husband, the whole team, right? Because it's a concerted effort, but amazing job. Amazing.
The highest interest rate we have on any of our debt right now is 5.15%. So that is much higher than we were getting, 18 months, 2 years ago. But when you factor in, whatever portion of any given deal we have at that no interest, no payment seller carry, the average interest rates, probably in the mid fours, right? Just doing blending those, essentially the 0% interest rate with, say, the 5% interest rate, blending those. So it's really not that much different than a few years ago. It's a completely different deal structure, but the numbers are really not that much different. And then, one thing that people ask is, well, how are we doing our cash out refis? And again, it all goes back to relationships with local and regional banks. We don't have any institutional debt, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all, people that we meet with, have lunch, know each other personally, and have done a lot of deals together. And so what we've been able to do is put, second mortgages on some of our properties so that we're able to keep, say, the 3% interest rate mortgage that we got on that building in, say early 2021, but we've completed our value add plan. We'd like to harvest that equity so that we can return capital to our investors. We don't want to give up that 3% debt. So we'll put a second mortgage on it. And, then the blended interest rate is, maybe 4% overall. But there are ways to do it. It just requires being creative, leveraging relationships, finding win-win opportunities, and just finding a way to say yes.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like I said, you're creating a win even through those relationships, right? And for let's say the local lender, right? The bank is your friend. The bank is your partner, right? Like Absolutely. Anybody who's thinking that the bank is not, oh, you run away. No, the bank is your friend.
Absolutely.
So, and you guys have just done an outstanding job, sounds like, of, making sure that they know that because now they're more flexible with you, right? I'm guessing these are all likely portfolio loans for them. They're keeping on their books. They want to keep that business there locally, and they're willing to work with you to do that, right? And okay, so because you've solved problems creatively and been able to close deals. Well, who do you think? Hey, you don't think that they know other landlords, other owners in their own market? Hey, they're looking to sell. I can structure this deal. What do you think about this? Right? Yeah. They're going to call you guys because they know you're creative. You can make stuff happen.
Yep, that's exactly what happens.
Yep. No, that's awesome. Huge kudos to you guys. That's awesome. And honestly, I could stay on with you and probably pick your brain about a million different things. So, but I want to be mindful of your time. And so now we're just going to transition to a part of our show. It's just a fire round. Quicker, they're just questions, real simple questions and just kind of straightforward answers. Is that something you're game for?
Let's do it.
All right, sounds good. What is the best book recommendation that you have other than Rich Dad Poor Dad?
You're like,
right?
nope, not doing that one. That's what everyone says. Of course, Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? That's
right. Yeah.
That I do have to share just a 30-second story on that one. So I read that book while I was in medical school, and I read it, a paper copy of it, and I literally remember holding it in my hands, and I would have this like feeling of like, I shouldn't be reading this. I should look away. I should set this book down, because I knew that a life in medicine is the opposite of what he describes in Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I knew that I was playing with fire, and I'm so grateful that I just kept reading, kept leaning in, even though it was really scary. And now I have this completely different life with a lot of freedom, and I'm able to share that freedom with so many others through passive investing. The book I'm reading right now is Atomic Habits. Just really leaning into it. This is the second time that I've read it. I read it, a few years ago, and honestly, it didn't click with me as much back then. I guess maybe I just wasn't ready for it or whatever. But I love that he talks about our habits are a reflection of our identity. The behaviors and the habits that we have every day either go in toward the identity that we want to have for ourselves, or away from the identity that we want to have for ourselves. And we want all of our habits to be a vote for the identity that we want to have. So if we want to have an identity as a healthy person, then we should have votes for that every single day with what we eat, what we drink, what time we go to bed, if we're in the gym. So it's really resonating with me, really helping me to think about, what are all of my habits? What are the ones that I want to strengthen? What are the ones that need to start brand new? And what are the habits that need to go away? I can't recommend it more. Atomic Habits.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great book. And you're not the first one to recommend it, but that's a great one. All right, next question. What is your superpower?
My superpower is decision making. I really try hard to, gather the information that I need, get some sense of my intuition, journal or write, do whatever I need to do to kind of blend together the left side of my brain, the data processing side with the right side, the intuition side, make a decision and move on. I find that getting stuck in analysis paralysis is not good for anyone. It can become an unlimited vortex of negative energy, really stunts all of the people around you. Just make a decision. You can always change. One of the key concepts I learned from the book, The Alchemist, is you can always go home, which is basically the idea that you can always change your mind. You can always reverse course. Making the decision to leave medicine was really hard. Yeah. But I know that I can always go back. You can always go home with big decisions, little decisions, but just make the decision and move on. And you get better at it. It's a muscle.
I'm sure there was no shortage of people in I'm sure in your life or around you, they were like, wait, what? You're quitting medicine? You spent all of those years in residency and all that money and everything else, and you're leaving? You're quitting? What?
Yep.
I'm sure.
That was probably the hardest decision I had ever made. And I'm grateful for that, because now almost every other decision just is very easy.
Yeah. But you'd already exercised that muscle, right? That's how you could do it. All right, next question. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career?
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. Probably what we already touched on of be a person who solves problems. Yeah. Earlier in my journey as an entrepreneur, I really believed, I'm almost embarrassed to say, but I really believed that a leader was a person who thought about all the risks, found all the downsides, kind of poo-pooed all the plans. If you came to me with a great idea, I would just be like, Steve, you're wrong about this, and have you thought about this? And you're missing something here. And I really thought that was my role as a leader. And then I read the book by Bob Iger, CEO of Disney. What's the name of that book? I read that book. You can find it. Bob Iger, CEO of Disney. It's his memoir. And early in that book, he talks about how the role of a leader is to be a person who says yes. Of course, you want to think about risks. Of course, in our industry, you want to underwrite, you want to stress the model in every possible way. You want to make conservative projections. But as a leader, you want to be asking, okay, how can we solve that problem? What deal can we put together? What opportunity can we create? What pain can we solve? That has totally changed my life in entrepreneurship, in my marriage, my friendships, who I am as a mom. That's probably been the biggest change in my life that has come from, straight from Bob Iger, who I believe to be, an amazing leader. He was just brought back to be the CEO of Disney again after a short stint with a different CEO. Find a way to say yes. Find a way to put something together. Saying no is weak. Saying no feels strong. It's all ego. It's all, well, I know better than you. I know all the downsides. You're not thinking of this, or you don't know that, or this bad thing could happen. That's all ego. But if you lead from the heart and find a way to say yes, that's where real opportunity comes from.
Oh, that's a great answer. Great answer. And finding a way to say yes puts you into problem solving mode.
Exactly. Bob Iger's book is named The Ride of a Lifetime. Highly recommend it.
I had heard of it too. That I couldn't remember it.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. Let me just put that down real quick. All right. For the busy working professional, working towards financial freedom, now that you guys have, long attained it, what advice do you have?
Have a big why. Have that thing that you are just magnetically pulled to, that, makes everything as enjoyable as possible, that gets you through the struggles, and know that the money will not really change your life. The person you become as you generate the money is really what changes your life. Having talked to a lot of investors and even having experienced it myself, people always have a number. It's often 100,000 a year, and it seems really far away. But they have this mythical idea that when they get there, all of a sudden they'll be stress-free and have great communication with their spouse and not care when the kids spill the Cheerios and just be sitting on the beach all the time. And really what they find is when they have even a small amount of passive income, they already feel some of that freedom. And the thing that I encourage people, my specialty in medicine is psychiatry. And so I'm always thinking about mindset and mental health and identity and personality development, is think about who you want to be when you have this, say, mythical 100,000 a year in passive income, and just start being that person today. Even if you have $0 of passive income, just think about what would that person do and start doing it. The passive income will come, but who you become as a person is really what the freedom is. The money is just a surrogate for personal growth.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Amazing response. So yeah, no, that's huge. Well, like I said, I'd love to stay on with you and chat more. I feel like I'm sitting down with my therapist. No, just learning about psychology.
I'm glad you have that safe, comfortable, positive feeling. That's my goal here.
But like I said, I'll wrap up our time here. And if our audience wants to reach out to you and get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So my husband, Nick, and I run Black Swan Real Estate. Our website is meetblackswan.com. Tells you a little bit about our company, our business plan, how to invest with us. As I mentioned, we have that real estate investing course that's a give what you can model. 100% of revenue goes to charity. We've done some really amazing things with that so far. We've built a playground in our community. We put a commercial kitchen into a homeless shelter here in Rochester, gave some money to a large homeless shelter in New York City. Really just a fun passion project for us. So meetblackswan.com. That's also our newsletter, our Facebook group, calendars, all sorts of fun stuff there on our website.
I'm joining now right here. This is good.
I love it.
No,
we do a live Zoom call with our audience once a month. Teaching, it might be something like state of the market or how to do a cash out refi, goal setting, mindset, just sort of whatever our audience is interested in. We do that once a month in a live format. We usually go for a couple of hours. We call it community hour. We go until everyone's questions are answered. It's just a lot of fun. I think people benefit from the content, but also really from the community. Like you said earlier in our talk here, it's all about the people you surround yourself with. And if you surround yourself with the people who are on the path that you want to be on, whether they're a little further behind and you're kind of pulling them up, or they're a little further ahead and you're kind of following in their footsteps. The community is such a big piece of all of the goals that we're trying to reach with passive income, freedom, all of the reasons that we're investing in real estate.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. Yeah, it makes me think of the constellation model, if you're familiar with that, right? It's like, well, you're learning from those in front of you, you're giving to those that are maybe a little bit behind you. And then, of course, you have your peers, right, that are, kind of surrounding yourself there as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's awesome. It's a healthy way to live. Well, awesome. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show with you today, sharing with our audience and, your experience. And obviously you guys are still cranking. So, we'd love to check back in with you and, maybe we'll have you back on, the show a little bit later on and check in with you and see, if you doubled the portfolio size by next year or whatever goals you set. I know you guys will hit the target. So that's super exciting. We'd like to get to
1 billion in assets under management sometime in the next 5 years. I think awesome. We're going to do it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Listen to those goals, you guys. Listen to those goals. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. Have an amazing day. And we look forward to staying in touch with you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Aloha. Oh, man. What an awesome show. Now, I get to interview some amazing people on the podcast, but that one in particular was very special. Dr. Elaine was sharing with us so much insight to how her and her husband have been able to scale up massively, make a huge difference, not only in their own personal lives, achieving, financial freedom probably a long time ago, but still just powering ahead, obviously bringing other investors along for the ride through, vertical integration, scaling up, through their business, really finding a way to say yes, right? That was a huge takeaway, overcoming those limiting beliefs. When you say yes, you're immediately into like problem solving mode. So how can we make this happen versus thinking of all the different ways that something can't work, right? So huge takeaways from that show. So go back and listen to it. I know I'm going to go back and listen to that one because that was a great interview by Dr. Elaine. So yeah, awesome that she was on the show. And for those of you guys, of course, if y'all are interested in connecting with us here locally in Hawaii, or if you're online too, we still occasionally will do some, Zoom networking meetups, but we love doing the in-person stuff with you guys. So of course, if you want to learn more about our business, go to tricityequity.com to take a look at, past and projects and, to stay tuned with what we've got on the table. And of course, if you're interested in connecting with people here locally, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and more. We just had a meetup here last week. And, of course, we look forward to doing that with you guys every month. And then also, too, of course, if you found, value in our podcast, right, with the people that we bring on, or if you've got suggestions for people that you'd like to see on the show, make sure that you're leaving us a review. Make sure that you're, commenting on YouTube. We'd love to be able to continue to do this for you guys. And it really encourages us, to see those 5-star reviews on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, really wherever you're listening to the show. So, of course, please make sure that you're sharing that show if or the podcast in general, if this is something you think that might resonate with a friend or an associate. Then of course we also have our conference coming up. It's the second annual Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Conference. This year is going to be over on the beautiful Big Island. So of course, go to the website, go to tricityequity.com. Of course, you can find out more there, but also Hawaii Millionaire Mindset. You can find out more there as well. Ticket sales are happening now, of course. So make a great Christmas gift. So make sure that and New Year's gift, or really anytime gift. So make sure that you're making plans to be there. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for today. We'll see you on the next show. Aloha.